It's been a long time since we were on the air. Welcome to Powered Racing World. My name is Frode, and tonight I'm going to have two guests with me, which I truly enjoy speaking to. Stuart Halley from Mercury Racing is going to join us, and my longtime friend Tim Seebold, the Formula One promoter in America, also called the NGK F1. Before we speak to the guys, I will show you a little video from Mercury Racing. Have a look at this one.
Mercury Racing announces the 200 APX, the second outboard in our APX series designed and developed for circuit racing. This competition-only engine has a V6 powerhead and is a perfect complement to our previously released V8-powered 360 APX. The 200 APX engine has been developed to support the UIM's Formula 2 series, the APBA's OPC series, and can be raced into 24 hours of Rouen. It is designed to outperform, be more reliable, and offer more durability than the current engines raced. With this product introduction, Mercury Racing continues to provide sustainable, low-emission solutions to power tunnel boat racing competitors. Similar to our 360 APX, this engine provides more than a 90% reduction in emissions compared to conventional two-stroke engines. The hallmark features of the Apex series are embedded in the design of the 200 APX. It includes the race-proven SSM number 4 gear case, the 12-inch midsection with integrated lift and trim, and the overdrive transmission, which has been designed to increase propeller RPM. Multiple ratios are available to enable teams to dial in boat setup for each race circuit. It also features a lightweight, low-inertia flywheel that enables exceptional acceleration, and the above-water exhaust provides a classic growl that any racer can appreciate. The 200 APX powerhead is an evolution of Mercury's 200 V6. It has forced air induction, an additional 1,000 RPM, and increased compression ratio. It also has more power and RPM at the prop than the 200 XS, while maintaining a compact and lightweight design, weighing in at just 25 pounds more than the legacy product. Because the 200 APX is available only to eligible race teams, it is mechanically sealed to prevent internal tampering. Mercury Racing is also able to assist in ECU monitoring as another mechanism to ensure a level playing field. Due to its reliability and durability, this engine provides lower operating costs to race teams. To learn more about the 200 APX, visit mercuryracing.com.
Now it's quite exciting to see if the technique is with me because we have been quite nervous and scaring each other. Timmy, are you with me?
Yes, thanks for having me.
Thank you very much. Timmy Seebold, promoter of NGK. And Mr. Stuart, are you with us as well?
I hope so.
Oh, that's
Good to be
perfect.
here, Friday.
You're loud and clear, loud and clear, loud and clear.
Excellent.
So we have been very excited to have you two on because there is so much going on in social medias about the 200 Apex NGK. We know there has been a meeting, General Assembly, I assume, in the US, and that's why you guys are here, and that's why I'm so excited to hear what you guys have to say. So, Timmy, I would like to start out with you. Why is this so important? What's going on right now, and what's your plan for NGK F1 in 2022?
Well, we're very excited to have the 200 in Mercury involved with on the series. This is very important for several reasons. The main reason is, for one, we finally have a manufacturer that's back in boat racing with current, clean product that's available at any Mercury marine dealer throughout North America. So the local dealer can support the local racer, getting more people involved with our sport and with the series. This also lends ourselves to going after new competitors and growing the sport. So a competitor coming in will no longer have to be a mechanic or a two-stroke specialist to be competitive. The longer maintenance intervals of the Apex 200 combined with Mercury's long block exchange program will really be a benefit. It's a sealed motor, so that way we don't have the tampering. As a series, we will also seal it with our own, but this gives us a platform to market new racers and high performance enthusiasts to put us on par with all the other motorsports around the world, new participants.
That's all good. Normally, powerboat racing has been going. What can I say? Runs in the family from father to son, and it has been a big part of it. Well, we're now using the very political correct word to tamper the engines. Tuning the shit out of them was also an expression back in the days. But now we're going to have a sealed motor. That's what you're saying, and. Why is that so important, Timmy, in the NGK F1 series?
Well, the motors available that are currently being run on the series, and we've got the carbureted 2.5, we've got the Optimax, we've got a Yamaha motor, we've got the OMC motor. But what this gives us is an additional option for our guys to come in, can buy brand new equipment, a brand new boat, a brand new motor, and get started in boat racing without feeling that at a disadvantage, because they're not second, third, fourth generation racers coming into the sport and don't know all the tricks.
Well, Stuart, welcome to the show. This got to be music in your ears as an engine manufacturer.
Yeah, it's been a really a kind of an interesting ride when we debuted the engines originally, just right as COVID was warming up. So it's been very good the last part of last year from October when I met Tim officially. We've been talking for a number of years, but got to meet him live at the Lake Havasu event, which was an awesome event. And then from there, we've just been in discussions. We organized a test session down in Parker, Arizona with a couple of the race teams and got to do a direct comparison between the 200 carb engine and then also the 200 XS Optimax Just a shout out to RJ West and Spencer Love for helping us with that test. And you can follow the social media. They've been posting that we are not paying for it. That's all their interpretation and all their test data. So really happy that Tim's and the APBA have decided to run all these engines together in one class and let the racers decide what they want to run.
You told me yesterday how you met Timmy. Was he parking your car over in at Lakes?
No, I didn't have a car at Lake Havasu, but it was funny because I was just by our booth. We had brought a couple of our historic engines out, and I think a lot of people got a big kick out of that. Actually, we had the ones with the 4 megaphones on the exhaust, and I think it's 25, and a couple of the other older engines. And I don't remember what I said, but I went to say something, and then I had never seen Tim, but heard his voice, and he's got a distinct voice, and then we just started chatting and kind of building the relationship. But it was a great positive weekend. Met a lot of the racers from past, and I got a personal tour around the history of tunnel boat racing with Tim's dad, Bill, who, when I was a young man, used to watch his, running his boat in racing. So it was very good.
I gotta say, Timmy, the Lake Havasu race last year was probably the powerboat race who created more buzz, and a big shout out to the live streaming team you had there as well. They did a phenomenal job. It was a big disappointment. I was sitting at home together with Michael Werner, and he has raced over there many times, and he's like, Scheisse, we want to go, we want to. There was so many old timers, and I gotta say, next year that race has definitely become on my bucket list. That's for sure, and I would also like to race it because it seems to be awesome racing. And how are you now going to police it, Timmy, so that you will have a level playing field? Because all the discussions has been going on in social medias that they have been afraid of the new motor, and they had ideas and so on. But what has been decided? What are the facts that we can serve the audience tonight?
Well, basically, is always difficult for everybody. Everybody is a little afraid when you introduce something new, and especially on this level. Also, how's it going to work? So what we've worked out is Mercury will have a technical support person on site at all of our events this year. We, Seebold Sports, has also become a Mercury competition dealer, and we will support the motor with parts at the event site. APX 200, remember, just gives us a new, I feel like I'm on The Price is Right. Anyway, so it gives us, it doesn't take anything away from what we're already doing.
No.
It is only an additional engine to participate with. So other motors are going to be viable, they're going to be competitive, and we're going to keep the class going. This is only an additional engine platform. Mm-hmm. We have got the UIM and APBA homologation of the engine, which is going to be the baseline and what all of the other rules go around. The engine must run as homologated. It must have the Mercury seal, and in our series, it must have our seal in the motor. No performance enhancements will be made to the engine for 5 years per our agreement. The rev limiter is set at 6,800 RPMs. The number 4 SSM gear case will be used with overdrive. Is the standard drive that APX with. The cowlings and graphics must be as produced from Mercury. Minimum boat length 16 foot, and the maximum or minimum boat weight of 1,225 pounds with the driver after the race. Now, this is going to be no different, the inspection, than all the other engines that we go through. On-site inspection of the boat, the load wheel to verify the RPM, the maximum RPM. We're going to be inspecting wiring harnesses. We're also going to be utilizing Mercury's speed link to verify the ECU, the parameters, the sensors, and the runtime. So that way we can look at all of these things to make sure that we're keeping a level playing field. And like all the other boats on the tour this year, there's maximum battery, except for any safety system.
We have a little problem with your audio, Tim. So while I'm talking to Stuart, I would like to reconnect your line and see if that's going to make it better. So Stuart, I got rid of Timmy for a minute here, but I would then like to hear a little bit about your participation theory, because you are now choosing to work with the NGK F1 promoter in the States, and what's your thought behind it?
Yeah, we want to work with any of the promoters, sponsors, team owners that want to promote powerboat racing, and really to grow a series, you really need to introduce new products into that. So, for the almost 4 years that I've been in my role, we've had good relationships with XCAT and Class 1 through P1 powerboat, and we continue to grow our offshore presence. And we've used that model now, just going forward. So it's really, we want to, as the only marine manufacturer that is supporting powerboat racing, we don't find that we need to optimize and get an engine on the edge that it only lasts a race. We don't think that's a good sustainable model going forward. What we want to do as the only kind of marine manufacturer supporting powerboat racing is to provide an engine with multi-season durability, and then that we, as has been mentioned, we mechanically seal that engine, and then we have got we keep optimizing how we look into the ECU to make sure there's no tampering. And Tim talked a little bit about the SpeedLink system now, which is a Bluetooth module run from an APBA inspector's phone, and then we can just run a check just to make sure that the engines are running the right mapping.
I think actually I had a picture of the vessel, the mobile vessel view system that can and will be used. Is that so?
Yep. Exactly. So it's the similar hardware to what we have as Vessel View Mobile that is used by the main line product, but the Mercury Racing version is named SpeedLink. But yeah, you are correct. It's that hardware is what we use. A little bit different software interface that runs the information that we need in the racing community. So along with that. I think the multi-season engine, I think, is really critical, because the engines just have proven they're derivatives from our mainline products. We run them a little bit harder, a little more RPM. We do require a little higher octane fuel, but no race gasoline. It's just pump fuel, and we believe that's a good cost model for racers coming in. Racers don't have to go scour a junkyard to find parts. Now they can come to a dealer, as Tim said. You can buy the engine complete, and you're ready to go racing. And then because the engine is durable, everything we've heard from our other racing partners, if I look at especially the offshore series, they just say that they can go run the engine. They don't have to worry about the engine blowing up. They can run it. They can set up their boats, and then they get a lot better. Well, they're not frustrated, because a lot of times the engines are so strung out, you can't run them hard to get the boat set up properly. The life of the engine is degraded. So with this new model, they can run a lot at just normal race pace, get the boat set up, get the best hydro, best setup, and it's been positively reviewed by pretty much all the race teams in offshore racing that we've used it. Now we're just starting to work with the tunnel boat. guys. We've had a few test sessions, as I mentioned, with RJ and Spencer, and Hearn's boat. We also ran, and of course, we had a great partner in Chris Fairchild that has done a tremendous job helping us along because, again, I'm kind of new to Mercury racing, longtime Mercury employee, but new to Mercury racing, and a lot of the team is. So we needed to do some learning, and we listened to a lot of people that were helping guide us. Most were guiding us in a good direction, so we appreciate that. And but again, with the latest kind of step with meeting Tim and then working with his team to get this into reality, it feels really good getting these engines accepted.
3 times Formula 2 world champion Colin Jelf out of UK. He is posting a question and he says, will it run on E10?
Yes, the engines can run up to 10% ethanol. That's not a problem.
So Tim, are you back with an audio line as well?
Well, I hope so.
You hope so. In my notes, it says vintage two-strokes, and Stuart has told me everything about why we should do that. One of the racers' concerns, like myself included, I have a wet racing style, so sometimes I carry my boat as a life jacket. Have you had these engines to blow over? Because these things happen, and what was the situation?
Yeah, we've had multiple people drive the boat, and we've had several engines drink water because we're trying to push these
who was
boats.
It?
Well, I guess that's probably okay to discuss. It's part of the history. And it's been a fun. It's been a great product to develop, and Chris Fairchild and Greg Foster have both have seen the water, shall we say. And probably my favorite story is when Greg was driving the boat down in Lake X. He flipped her over or blew her over, and then within 45 minutes, the process is you pull the spark plugs, turn the engine over, blow the water out, empty the oil sump, and when we drained the oil sump, there was no water in the oil sump. It all looked good. We put that same engine oil back into the engine, and then ran, and then Greg was running that same engine, 45 minutes later after he had his incident and was able to get back out testing. So, it's not going to be that rosy every time. There will be times that, you do have a rod bent potentially. We do have a good program. I think that Tim talked a little bit about. What we're doing is, roughly our long block prices from dealers are around $9,000 in the U.S. And what we're doing is giving a $3,000 core credit to get the old. We don't care if parts are sticking out the side or whatever. We'll take that back. Give the racer $3,000 credit, and then get them a new long block assembly. Get them back on the water. And I think that'll be kind of our commitment to the racing, is to make sure that we keep this affordable.
So basically what he's saying, Timmy, is that when you pop the motor, big or small holes in it, it's $3,000 core, and it's going to cost you $6,000 for a brand new power head. That's got to be a deal for any racers. We are struggling a bit with Timmy. He's at least smiling. So
the maintenance intervals, You can't hear me?
I can.
No audio?
It's good now. It's a bit delay.
You can hear me? Okay. Well, the only thing I'm saying is with the maintenance intervals, somewhere close to 80 years or so, vertically, you're rebuilding 2 or 3 times a year, depending on the number of races that you run.
Mm-hmm. So, Stuart, a question for you, or a couple of questions for you, actually. The price on the motor, that was Nelson from the US. He's asking, how much for the complete motor? Racer's price. Is that
Yeah,
set?
so yes, so it just actually took an increase due to, I think everybody knows there's supply chain issues throughout the world, but as of January, we usually reset the competition engine pricing. So the engine, the 200 APX, um, the recommended MSRP is $47,000, and the dealer has a small amount of profit in that, but that's what we suggest the price be, and that is the engine only. The rigging is maybe the $1,000 to $2,000 more to get all the rigging you need to get the engine set up properly.
We are trying to get Timmy back on here, and here he is. Timmy, maybe this is a question for you. Do you have to scrutineering brake seals to dry out? Okay, so basically, do you have to break the seals to dry out the motor for scrutineering?
I
Stuart?
could take that one,
Yeah.
Frode. No, that basically you just, as I said, the seals will remain in place. The heads don't come off. You just take the spark plugs out, turn it over, get the water out of the cylinders.
You have also made an video from your technical director, Jeff Rumen. Should we have a look at that one?
Yes, yes. Director of Engineering, Jeff Broman.
Director Engineering, perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no, now that wasn't going to happen. Now Timmy is back on the line here, but anyway, we are going...
I'm Jeff Broman, Director of Engineering for Mercury Racing. We're here at Lake X to introduce the new 200 APX. The 200 APX is the first Mercury Racing derivative of the highly successful 3.4-liter V6 platform. We start with a 225 four-stroke power head and add a higher compression ratio and more RPM to increase the performance. The lightweight flywheel shaves 6 pounds off the weight of the power head compared to the production version. The 200 APX uses the same 12-inch midsection as its big brother, the 360 APX, but the overdrive has a unique ratio specially optimized for the 200 APX. New for the 200 horsepower class, a carbon fiber top cowl incorporates a forced cold air induction system. Finally, the gear case is an updated version of our number 4 Super Speedmaster. The result is an engine that produces well over 200 horsepower at the prop. It does all this while also meeting 3-star emissions and burning about 10% less fuel than the 2-stroke 200 XS. Tunnel boat races start with a dead engine start from the beach. To get the 200 APX accelerating as quickly as possible, we use a 24-volt starting system and custom low inertia flywheel. The 200 APX uses an above water exhaust to maximize power and also lets spectators hear the engine screaming at nearly 7,000 RPM down the straightaway. Another unique feature of the 200 APX is the overdrive located in the midsection between the power head and the gear case. The 200 APX makes about 20% more torque than the 200 XS Optimax, but it turns at a lower RPM. We use the overdrive to trade some of that torque for more prop shaft RPM to match the performance of the 200 XS. Finally, Mercury Racing developed a new fully synthetic oil for this engine. It's a lightweight 10W30 that's designed to minimize high RPM wear and minimize windage losses.
I can sit and watch these videos all day. Tell me a little bit about the testing that's been going on at Lake X. It's music in every powerboat racing fan's ears. Stuart, how much testing has been done, and how much testing is going to be carried out over there? Because there is obviously a lot of questions in terms of props and reliability and service factors and so on.
Yeah, so there's been significant testing through the development of the engine. We've not really been out there lately, I would say. We had initially run the V8 version, which is the 360 APX, and did a lot of work with that. We had both engines together for a little bit of time, maybe up till about a year ago, and then really stopped testing. We felt like we had a good solution, and really just wanted to kind of wait till people were ready for, to consider the engine. So, and that started happening around about, Q3, late Q3 or Q4 of last year. We had a couple test sessions in Springfield, Ohio, and again, Richard Hearn helped us with that ladder test, and then the test post Lake Havasu race, which was in Parker, Arizona, with RJ and Spencer. And we are going to be doing a little more testing in the mid-March time period. I guess there's some maybe interest in some other pilots trying that engine out. So we've been considering that and working with those teams. So very interesting time, very exciting. Again, I just love this engine and love what it stands for. The team at Mercury Racing, I think, did a great job trying to get a robust powerhead mated to high performance parts that really benefit the whole tunnel boat series, and we look forward to growing the sport moving forward, get more participants, and just make racing bigger and bigger.
I got to share a picture with you. I just got it in during the start of the live streaming show here. I think it's going to make you smile because can you see what this is? That's an Optimax on the shelf, you know. So,
okay.
it's obviously one of the American teams who has been putting their Optimax away. So I said, "This is what we're doing with the Optimaxes now. We're storing them."
That's good.
Oh, it was RJ who was sending me that picture. Tim is calling me again, and let's see if we can get him on here. Timmy, are you with us now?
Yes.
Perfect. So we have had some more comments, which both of you can probably answer to. But Roberto, he is a Formula One mechanic, lives and works with Nico in Belgium. He says, and when the engine have a bent rod or valve, well, that costs you $6,000 as far as I'm concerned, because then you got to put that engine back in the truck. At least that's what's going to happen over in the States. Isn't that so? Am I right?
Yeah, so the model, we developed a couple different models, one for the 360 APX. We've not had to institute that at this time, but the 200 APX, we've been working with Tim and the rest of the F1 teams and racers. And so basically anytime the engine needs to be repaired, it's basically a core swap out for a $6,000 delta. We looked at options of having, maybe a tuner, put the engines back together. We don't really do that in the field with even the production engines. We felt like that would always be scrutinized, that, this guy's giving this guy better engines than the other guy, due to relationships. We thought about having a non-tuner, maybe put the engines together, but again, that's not what we do. Mm-hmm. So the only thing we really felt like we could do to control the playing field and making sure everybody knew that it was a level playing field, which I think racers really want to make sure they're not disadvantaged. And that is being the only, powerboat engine manufacturer that supports racers. We felt like that's what is best for us to do. We will find a solution that we can ensure that everybody gets the same equipment. So when we don't rebuild that engine. We basically give that person a brand new engine. It's a new block, it's new heads, it's new everything. So $6,000 we think is pretty fair, and that's really the model we're developing in the U.S.
So Nelson is saying thank you very much, and thank you for the support to the racing community. I miss seeing the Mercury truck. I guess it's going to be a Seebold truck now, Tim, on the race sites.
Yeah, it's the same support truck that we've been using, but to further answer that question is, what do you do now with your motor when you bend a rod? You got to go through the same thing. So it's no different for this motor than it is for the current motors, except for the fact you have valves now rather than just rods and pistons. So it is very similar.
Paolo Longhi, he's an European-Italian Formula 2 driver. He is asking, what needs to be changed apart from the engine? throttle pedals, electric systems. I guess they're curious now for what kind of material you have to exchange from the Optimax, because we assume that the boats can be used in the same manner. So what now in terms of what you have to change?
Yeah, so the do you want to answer it, Tim, or?
Yeah, that's fine. There's a couple different ways you can do the foot throttle. You can use the current throttle, use your cable, and then it operates the fly-by-wire module, or you can mount the module onto the foot throttle, so that way you don't have to run the cable. But there is a vapor canister that you have to put in. There is some wiring harnesses that would come from Mercury that you install. But when we did the last test with RJ and Spencer, both those boats ran the Opti and the carb motor, and then both of them were back on the water with the 4-strokes the same day. So the whole model, the whole engine was switched along with some of these rigging parts, and then they were back on the water. So it is not a tremendous deal to make that happen.
So what can you say? We have a question here again that's also regarding price. Is there a breakdown on the 47K? How much for lower unit, midsection, and powerhead? Obviously, a powerhead was $9,000. That's been answered already. Has there been set a price on the mid and the gear case?
Yeah, so the engine, we only sell the engine complete, right? That's $47,000, but we have a lot of service parts. So the service parts are available. The $9,000 for a long block assembly with unless you have a quarter trade-in for that $3,000 credit. The other parts, I don't remember every part that we sell, but the SSM number 4 is similar pricing to today's SSM number 4. We also have a conversion kit that will take a current SSM number 4. You can buy that kit, and then you can convert that gear case to the new 200 APX's requirements. So I apologize, don't have all those burned into memory, but we do have a complete service part pricing strategy on the engine. And service parts usually are a little more than buying a complete engine.
Colin Jelf is keen on the questions here. I thank you for that. It's good that we have good questions coming in. That's why this dynamic program can be interested, and we can get a lot of questions answered. Colin would like to understand if it will run Mercury monitor gauges, Stuart.
Yes, I think it interfaces with current gauges, and then I believe you can run our SmartCraft gauges too with the engine.
And obviously from the test data that we got from RJ and Spencer, you can also hook it up to the AIM system.
Mm-hmm.
Timmy, this one is a question which I know has been going into the rules and so on. Is the overdrive gear ratio changeable? For the 200?
The only legal gear ratio for the overdrive is what it comes with standard from the factory.
Because that was one of the things we learned that it was in one of the videos. I've watched it only 12 times or something, but that was something they said in the video. I think it was you said it, Stuart, that you could change the ratio.
Yeah, I think the way that's been turning out for us is I think the only people that have talked about allowing different ratios is the European Formula One series, and but I think Formula 2, we haven't had detailed conversations to that level of depth with Formula 2 to kind of work out a total solution. But I know there was initial talk about they would just prefer to pick one ratio and go with that as well. And I think that's good for the V6 200 APX platform. I think that just works as a good cost solution, because otherwise there's a lot of other variability you can do to set up, right?
The thing which also has been talked about here is the two different ways to get around it. In Europe, they are having it as a standalone class. They have to be 5 races. Tonight we're focusing on the NGK. And explain us a little bit about how is the strategy going to be there, because now it's going to be everyone racing each other, all or nothing.
All the motors will compete against each other that are currently legal, and the new APX 200. The one thing that we mutually agreed on, meaning Stuart and myself, as far as representing Mercury and the series, is that we want it to compete with the other motors. We want, for several reasons. Number one is so that way we do not obsolete any current engine platforms that we're running. So we want to work this in, and we want the drivers to have their own choice on what engine packages they want. But that's why we did the tests, the several tests that we've done, to make sure that the performance levels are on par with each other. And at the end of the day, we can also adjust the different engine platforms to be able to keep that parity across the board.
Yeah. And Frode, I'd like to add too to that, that's kind of something we feel pretty strongly about, is we don't want to disrupt a series, a boat class. We want to build on it, provide something that's a long-term solution, something more sustainable, environmentally better, better durability. And, we've been working on that model to do that. And, if I could just say that the APBA's super stock category that runs 300 XSs today, that we're doing the same thing there, where basically teams that want to run a new 300R, they can run that engine right alongside the 300 XSs. They're all in the same world championship. And we think that's a good way to do it, because if you have to have so many to compete, then you can't always necessarily get everybody to move at the same time. And I think what we want to do is we want to work with the teams to move at the pace they want to move at. So I really like the approach that Tim's group and the APBA signed up for, in that we just let everybody pick what they want to run, and then you run it, and then there's one world championship at the end.
I like the idea, Stuart, but Timmy has kind of tied your hands, because he have said no enhancements for 5 years, and he has not made that rule for the rest of the motors.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I'm comfortable with that, Frode.
That's what the winner says, Timmy. He's not afraid of the competition and balancing it out.
Well, that's exactly right. And, that's what we want. We want competition, just like Mercury wants competition. And it gives a little bit of flavor to the championship. All of a sudden, if you're a 2-stroke guy, you're, as far as a fan's concerned, you're going to be voting for, the 2.5 Carby. And if you're a 4-stroke guy, you're going to come in, you're just going to say, hey, I want that Apex driver to win. So we're going to have several drivers, several teams have invested in the new engine platform. And now that doesn't mean I know exactly who's going to be running or who's not going to be running them, but there's several teams that have invested in the engines. And so we're looking forward to, 5+ Apex motors out there competing this year on the series.
So that answered Paulo's question, because Paulo Longe, he asked how many drivers in the NGK used the new Apex, and Stuart, how many have you sold? Because now we have to pick your pocket and find out what's going on.
So I think there's 7 engines that have been distributed to teams. Now, just for full disclosure, we actually traded an engine for a boat. So we have invested in a boat, and Chris Fairchild has been a great partner during the development of both the 360 APX and the 200 APX. we could not get him to take anything. We put him in the hospital one time. So what we're doing is we've got a boat that we're going to let him run with a 200 APX this year. And that 200 APX is going to be no different than anybody else's 200 APX. It's just a personal thank you to the work that Chris Fairchild has done for us. So
Perfect. You need those test drivers, don't you?
yeah.
Test
He
drivers,
calls
test
himself,
dummies, we need them all.
yeah. He said he calls himself a crash test dummy, right? So
I guess we all are. We can sign to that, Timmy, can't we?
Oh, yeah.
Colin, you would like to understand if you're running reverse grid races this year. We are keen to understand more about your format, Timmy. Can you please explain how you run your race format? Because we are all keen to hear that.
Sure. So we do utilize the reverse grid on the heat races. So our races are comprised of qualifying, then 3 heat races, and then a final. And we've got live timing that we utilize, and that allows us to do the qualifying as a group. We usually split it up into a couple groups just so there's not so many boats on the water. One thing that we changed a couple years ago is we went to timed races rather than number of laps. The reason we did this is so that way we can vary the course size. With the current boats and current fuel tanks, more than likely the courses were about the same size year in, year out. So with utilizing a number of laps, it takes the fuel consumption out of it. And then we can have, a couple years ago, we had a 47-second race course, and then we had a 27-second race course in the same year. So it really puts a spin on it, because that way, if a guy finds that special prop that everybody tries to find, then it takes that out of it. And so it really mixes the field up. So what we do is the first heat, you start, we usually split the field in an A and a B group, and we'll run those as qualified then. Then in the second heat, you start, whoever has the most points starts at the back of the pack. So if you won the first heat, you start last the second heat. And then on the third heat, it goes on combined points. Whoever has the most combined points from the first 2 heats starts last. And then once we get to the final, then we combine the points, because you get points for everything, every qualifying heat and every final in our series. So all the qualifying heats are important. Then we start the final with whoever has the most points. He starts on pole, so on and so forth down the line. And we can also go by time to break those ties. That's the advantage of the live timing system. It really all of a sudden takes all the scoring questions out of it. There's no manual start and stop of a watch to get your times.
Tell me a little bit about the new timing system, because you have been developing a new technology in terms of getting the times, which have to be so precise and accurate. Even more importantly, when the engines are getting more and more equals, and it's less and less differences between all of them. What kind of systems are you using, and how does it work?
Well, we actually work with 2 companies. So MyLaps makes the transponder that we use, and then we use Live Timing Services that actually has developed the hardware and the software for packaging the whole thing and making it where to work on the water. The difficult thing about timing systems and water sports is the fact that you can't have a loop under the track. So you don't have a wire under the track that the transponder feeds off of. So now you have to use satellite to do it. So we combined UHF frequency and satellite to go up and back, and gives us the data for where the boat is and what speed it's running and the time. Now, the other really neat thing about this timing system is the fact that it's also a track management system. So from our series standpoint, we feel that this is a much safer option for all of our drivers. So when you have a red flag, it comes up on your dash and it shows you there's a red flag. So we don't have people racing back to the start finish line and potentially having a second problem on the course. We also can throw a yellow flag. We can throw a black flag individually. There's several things that it allows us to do from a track management situation as the series, and it makes it for a better show because it's incorporated with our live streaming shows where you see it on the screen and it shows you the differences. It'll show you the speeds. We can set speed traps. It also helps the cameramen, believe it or not, because within the system, it has a predictor where the best races on the course are because of the difference in times. So then it gives our cameramen a good chance to our good knowledge of where the best race is, because we all know the best race isn't always for first and second. It might be for fifth and sixth. It might be for 10th and 11th and 12th. But the fact is, when we're making a show and producing these shows for the fans, we've got to have action, and that helps us relay the action to the fans.
So how accurate is the system? That would probably be the first question. And this sounds very, very expensive. It sounds good, but it sounds expensive.
Well, there's actually, it is not that expensive. When we first started it, we invested about $20,000 into it. And then the teams invested about $700 for the transponder and the antennas. And those are theirs. So let's say that other groups start using the same timing system. Well, those racers would be able to use those transponders for other races. Now, so far, that's not happened over here, but that's our goal, to try and unify how we're timing these boats and scoring these boats, because the days of doing, paper timing and writing it on a piece of paper, especially when you have 25 to 30 boats on the course at the same time, it's not only very difficult to do, it takes a lot of manpower. And with this timing system, you can minimize that and increase the accuracy.
We have several comments coming in. Phil, he says, awesome job, Tim. This is what we lose sight of. We need to put on a show. And another guy who has been posting a comment is Nikita Leach. He is racing Formula 2 in Europe, and he says, if the team rebuilds engines by themselves, how the engine will be plumbed with blue mark by Mercury, as we have seen on available photos. These guys are all over Facebook, so somebody has been working on a 200 motor, but as far as I understood, there was just going to be one shop which worked on the engine. Is that correct?
What I would say, Frode, is that's only for the 360 APX. Again, we worked out a model with those teams and for a rebuild situation, and we have not had any final discussion with the Formula 2 group to understand how we would do the engines there. But with the US, we're basically doing this exchange program where we get the old engine back and then we provide a brand new engine. I think I mentioned earlier, that I think when you start to do that, when people rebuild their own engines, you can't keep it. The perception, whether it's true or not, the perception will be that somebody's got an unfair advantage, and that's why we ended up with this model that we will give a very good price for a brand new power head and change them out that way. I don't
That's
know how you do the other solution.
That sounds
Yep.
like the fair way of doing it. 360
Well,
has been, oh, sorry, Tim. 360 has been mentioned a few times, and I heard a story, and now I got you here on the show, and you can verify if it's true or not. Have the Formula One teams in Europe been offered a very fancy deal if they started to use the engine? And I've heard prize money, which has been out of the normal days. Is that something you can confirm or deny, Stuart?
That's a good question. I have made a proposal to the teams in the Formula One series, and they basically have to decide if they're interested. If they're not interested, that's their business, and we move forward.
And move forward, Timmy Seebold. That is the NGK F1 Championship. And when we had the build-up of this show, when we started to talk how we were going to do it, and this question was not on the script, I kind of gave that to Stuart from listening into the 360s issues and so on. But this whole, what can I say? Time frame for the 200 Apex has been done over the last 6 months, and already 7 guys is ready to race that motor. Tell me a little bit about that process, Timmy.
well, I think that speaks to volumes to how racers want to move forward and get powerboat racing in the 20th century. You know, it's one thing that we're just trying to grab some traction and get it rolling to see if it's going to be sustainable, and that's our goal. We want to use this platform to increase new participation and get new blood into the sport of powerboat racing, which it desperately needs, and this will allow us to do it. But just like all of our other sponsors that come on as NGK or as Kicker or, you know, Seaway Marine, we've got a lot of partners, and that's exactly what they are. They're investing in the series, and just like we're working with Mercury as a partnership, because if it's not good for both sides of the partnership, then it's not a good deal. And this is how we're going to move boat racing forward.
That's what we like to hear, and that's why I enjoy being on the show with Mr. Stuart Halley from Mercury Racing and Tim Seebold from NGK F1. We are getting in a lot of good questions, and the next question is going to be for Stuart. It's one of your colleagues, Stuart. He is working as a Mercury technician in Poland. His name is Simon. He is also a very honorable commissioner. He says, what can we check after the race, and what about technical learnings for commissioners? So basically he wants to know how he can find out that we have not been cheating.
Yeah, so we've offered the APBA that we will have an on-site instruction course, if you will, to get all the commissioners up to speed with the new engines. The engines are sealed, so really nothing needs to be inspected. The only thing we really look at the races will be the ECUs. If there's any kind of belief there's a problem, we will be happy to do a thorough investigation to make sure that the engine is on the same level as the other engines that are racing. So if we develop other interest, the thing I told Tim was, if you want us at the races, then we need to do this together. If you don't want us at the races, you can continue to go down the path you're going. And the thing I would like to point out is Mercury Racing is full of racers. We are racers. We love to go to the races. It's just really invigorating. It gets us out of the office, and we love being around that whole environment. And so that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get a little bit of interaction with teams and racers and promoters, and I think it's just great for the sport. We really want to grow racing. It's something I've had a passion my whole life for, and I want to do my part.
And
Music, Timmy.
I might add one thing to there. You know, what we're trying to prevent with doing the inspections and the sealing of the motors and all of the steps that we're taking for the inspection process is the days when a racer goes home and his motor is completely torn apart and he's got needle bearings in his hand. We want those days over.
I love those
We want to
days.
be able to come in, you do the inspection, we can check it electronically,
Yeah.
we know that it's on par, and then you go and you can go on your way, go to the festivities afterwards, and celebrate the weekend's racing.
I think one of the interesting stories one of the girlfriends told me of a racer was at the Havasu race was that racing used to it could be more of a family affair with these new four strokes that have got better durability because the night owls will be trying to fix their engine late into the evening, miss supper, and now with again a durable piece, you can basically get your work done, make it more of a family affair, spend time with the family at the race weekend, and then get on with just the racing portion of the program.
We had one guy saying, here it's time to wash the hands, and now you're telling me that my girlfriend is going to see more of me at the races. I mean, you're a damn good salesman.
Hey, you got to deal with that on a personal level. We're out on that deal.
Yeah, yeah. That's one of the things we find. That's one of the things we find at Mercury is usually it's two people make the decision, right? So we look at all ends of making a transaction successful, right?
Definitely. Nikita Leach is having a question here. He is concerned that they will not, how much will be the time? Well, basically he's asking a question which I'm sure Mercury will be very happy to have as a problem because he is pointing out how much time will it be for turn around the engines.
So I think that's a key thing. So what I believe he's saying is he's got to send his old engine in and he's thinking he's getting that same engine back, but that's not the case. So when Tim will have, and other promoters hopefully that partner with us in the future, we'll have power heads available at the race site. So what they will do is they'll show up basically with their engine that needs to be replaced. Mm-hmm. We'll give them that core credit, and then they'll get a new engine right away, brand new engine. So again, I think that maybe that's a little different foreign thinking for people, but we're not repairing that old engine. That engine is going in to be recycled, and we do a lot of recycling at Mercury. We need a lot of aluminum to make our engines, and that's a great thing to recycle. So. We'll get the engines back. We'll give a brand new engine for that $6,000, and then you can get on to again another, multi-season long block assembly.
So I guess what I understand then, for $6,000, the engine goes home with you after the race, even if you had a terrible weekend.
Yeah, if you had a terrible weekend, you go see Tim, and see again. He mentioned that earlier. I think it's worth repeating. He's our first. Competition dealer in the U.S. and again, that's part of the partnership that we can make sure that he has key parts on at the race site. The other thing I'll point out, there was a couple other questions on the pricing of parts, and the thing to realize is this engine is a derivative of our mainline products, and most of the parts, especially on the power head, are available at any dealer. Yeah. Right, so they're not low volume parts; they're high volume, affordable parts. Now, the midsection and the gear case, that's a different story because, to meet the racing requirements of a 12-inch midsection and an SSM number 4, those parts will be similar pricing to today's parts.
A very good question from Colin Jelf again. Are they pre-running?
The
motors.
Engines are. Yeah, the engines are pre-run in. The power heads have got basically they're not a fired test, but there's what you call cold in process tests. Where the engines are they're assembled on a very high end manufacturing line with lots of in process checks, and then there's some cold spinning that makes sure everything's good and a lot of process checks. But these replacement power heads will not be run in. So we'll have a process to make sure that those are broken in properly. Make sure the racer knows how to break those engines in properly.
Very good. I'm looking at, we're still having great numbers of spectators. You can do like Colin and Simon and Nikita. You can post your question in the comment field, either on Facebook or on YouTube or on the different sites we are going live to. And like you can hear, the guys are willing to answer them. Next question, and Nikita, he says, thank you. Simon, again, the UIM commissioner, he says, what exactly will be sealed? What about parts such as the starter motor, coil and alternator? I'm thinking of the exterior of the engine block, because you said that the block was sealed.
Yeah, the only thing that's sealed is the what we call the long block assembly, which is the assembly of all the moving parts inside, the crank rods, pistons, the cylinder block, the cylinder heads. So they're all kind of sealed together, so that there's a seal on the head to the block, and then also on the bottom of the block to the crankcase cover. Those are the main seals in the engine. So if you take the engine apart, those seals have to be tampered with. We know people try to knock those seals off, so we have different strategies to stay aware of that kind of shenanigans too, shall I say.
They were going to be doubled up, weren't they?
Yes, for Tim.
Yeah. But, that's no different than what we have now, in all honesty, because, there's nothing on the starters. There's nothing on any of the coils, the switch boxes, the stator. So there's going to be a few of those kind of things to go off of. But, that's all stuff that we can inspect. And that'll be part of the inspection process, depending on the situation. And, this is going to be a learning process as well. So we will continue to define how we do the process and what we inspect and how we inspect. So what we say today, we're going to learn, and by mid-season, we may have that more defined than we do today.
I think that's a really good point. I mean, that's, we've been expanding this model for the last few years from offshore now into the circuit racing, and it's different than it was when we started, and it's going to be an evolution process. We work with the promoters, we work with the the APBA and the UIM to make sure that we're doing what's necessary. Again, we want to be a partner. We want to make sure the playing field's level. Nobody that's racing wants to feel like they're disadvantaged, right? And again, as the only marine engine powerboat manufacturer that cares about racers, we're there to help out if people are interested in working with us.
Philip has a question. He is from Lithuania. How can we be sure that the engines are assembled the same at the factory? And probably what could be added to that question is, are each and every engine dynoed, so we know that they have the same horsepower?
Yeah, so the engines are all built at the factory. There's always a manufacturing tolerance, on products like that, whether they're blueprinted or not. The blueprint, is definitely less, but I think you'll find that these engines are very similar on power that are coming off of this manufacturing line. Just the way the engine's been designed and the way it's put together, horsepower is very similar with these engines.
Let's see, there is another question here from Colin. He says, it's a 24 volt starter. Does it only charge the 112 volt battery though? Technical question again. These guys are they're all down to the nitty gritty now.
I think I'm gonna have to table that one, unless Tim. I mean, we have it's a 24
I don't know that 100%, but it's probably similar to what we have right now on the Opti, so that it's charging back the one side of the electrical system.
I wouldn't want to misinform. I can reach out and get if somebody emails me that, I can make sure I get a proper question. But
And we have some new visitors on the show here as well, so we can repeat a couple of points. Timmy, it has been said before, though on a bit bad audio line, but has total boat weights been set with Apex 200?
Yes.
Is that 1175?
No, it's 1225.
12.
So currently our rules state that the 2.5 carb is 1175. The Opti 200 is 1200, and the Apex will be 1225. Our goal always is safety, and what we didn't want to do is put a heavier motor and then the integrity of the boat and the safety of the boat gets compromised to save weight for the heavier motor. So we wanted to do it in steps, and we weighed the Opti and we weighed all the parts of the Apex 200, came up with the weight difference, and that's where we put the weight difference on the rule.
Simon has made a point. He says, Tim is right. We need strong manuals and homologations for the Czech exterior parts, like, for example, flywheel, fuel pressure, etc., etc. So Simon is on the money here, isn't he?
Yes, and we'll be working before the first race. We will be working with Mercury along with the inspectors at APBA and the chair of the technical committee for OPC, so that way we kind of have some guidelines to go off of for that. Great question.
Stuart, when we spoke on a Zoom meeting, you told me that you had 10 or 12 motors produced last year, and I know now that you have sold already 7 of them. Is there new motors under production?
Yes, so we're building our next batch of engines right now. We've got some in the production system. We expect them to be available by the end of March for sale. There's still 2 engines in Europe. I do know that in the Belgian warehouse. So there are 2 available. They keep threatening to buy them, but nobody's purchased one yet in Europe as far as I know. And that's kind of the status.
That's probably because of the difference of rules and how they do it. Because in America, in the NGK F1, they said if you got one, bring one. In Europe, it's quite different because
Yes.
nobody wants to say if they bought one, and we got to be minimum 5 to have a race on. So, what do you think about the 2 different models, Stuart?
Yeah, I mean, I said that earlier. I really like what we've been pushing for, and is that kind of a conversion of a class rather than running 2 classes within the same boats. I think that's not racing. So with the offshore superstock and with Tim's Formula One series, I think the right way to do it is you put the engines in there. You make sure they're equivalent. Maybe you have to do something with weight as a last resort, but I think if you can do that, then you encourage transfer. I think getting 5 people to make a jump at one time, that becomes more complicated. I think you just let everybody make their own decision, and then eventually you'll get there.
I guess this next question would be a question for RJ because he's got the data on it. But how do you think the off the dock into turn with the different engines will work? Timmy, from a racer's point of view, you have raced 2 or 3 races in your career, haven't you?
1 or 2. One of the things that we could not measure on RJ's system is how long it takes for it to start. The only thing we can measure on the AIM system that day was when it starts from there forward. So take that into account. The only way we're going to really find that out is when we get the Apex 200 lined up against all the other engine packages on our series, and the green flag drops.
And that's on May the 1st, isn't it? Or that first of May weekend?
Yes, April 29th to May 1st, down in Port Neches, Texas.
Next one here, Stuart, they keep them rolling at us, and they're all good questions. So I'm going to continue a bit longer. I said we're going to do an hour. We have done an hour 15, and the numbers are increasing. I can see that they are treating us good here. So Nikita is asking, is all the service manuals for the Apex available, and is it possible to get them now? They want to start with reading up on them, you know.
Yeah, I believe everything's in our service department. Literature is available, so should all be out there. There's also, if you're interested, I think you can look at homologation documents on the UAM website too, because all that's there. It's a very, very comprehensive homologation document.
I cannot manage to reach to it because it's on the other desk, but I printed it and it was like 34 pages, so it was quite a lot more than the old Optimax.
No, I did the same thing.
It's an impressive engine. You know, again, I think if you look at even the consumer versions of those engines, they're quite remarkable the way they're designed as a consumer engine, and then we modify those, you know, for the racing applications. And just to be thorough, we fully documented that the engineering team did a great job on our engine there.
Yeah.
You know, I'm reading some of the comments too, and you know, as far as the rebuilding and things like that goes, when it for our series in the U.S., this is the path that we're choosing because I think it's the best path for the racers and keep the level playing field. Now, what they do somewhere else in the world with how they structure it, that could be different. But we're just talking about, you know, the U.S. F1 series right now, and this is the path that we chose to go down.
Phil asked a follow-up question. If I missed the question for the 12 and 24, that was a question that Stuart could not answer to directly. That will be checked up and it will be responded to in the comment fields later on, because this show is going to stay online. So if you missed it now, if you missed parts of it, you can go back and listen to the whole 1 hour 20 minutes and counting. So guys, I think we have covered all the questions. Obviously there are coming new people on board here.
Hey, Frode.
Tell me.
Frode. So just to build on that prior question about the, you know, about is there other options to the sealed power head? You know, what I'll say is that, you know, I think we've talked a little bit about it, but we will work a solution that is good for each of the series that is interested in running the product. So, you know, every individual will have a different idea on what's right, but we need to do the right collective answer for, you know, whatever the series are. We really like the approach that we have with Tim's series, in that you know, we just do a replacement long block assembly at a very good price. And again, if you start letting individual builders build it, it's just that whole perception of somebody's got an unfair advantage. So that's what's hard to get. That's what's hard to get beyond with that kind of model.
Yeah, Timmy, if we should sum up from the start, you have covered why it's important, and it's basically down to the obvious that the racers needs to be able to come in and buy a complete package rather than to run around on scrapyards and find old V6 vintage engines, I have learned it's called. Do you have any additional inputs before we close up the show, Timmy?
Well, I just want to reiterate the fact that all the engine packages that we currently use are still viable engine packages for the series. None of that's going away. The only thing we're introducing is an additional engine package, which is the Apex 200. So you can still come, you can still participate. We don't want anybody not to come and participate. We want to support all of our loyal racers that have been with us since John and I started this series, and we appreciate you all. And we want you to come and enjoy yourself and race with us, have good competition, but we also want to build for the future. And this is, in our opinion, how we can build for the future and grow the sport with new blood. So I want to thank Mercury Racing and Stuart for working with us and becoming a partner with us. And this is how we're going to improve boat racing, whether it's in the United States or whether it's around the world.
Colin, he says, can Frode and myself enter the NGK series? Maybe we should maybe we should do that, Colin.
Hell yeah, Colin, come on over. You guys can keep your boats at my shop and work out of it. Since I don't race anymore, I don't have a dog in the fight.
That sounds.
We'll reserve the first engine for him if he wants it.
That's excellent. That's excellent. Stuart, I have your colleague Simon. He is listening to the show and he says, isn't Mercury taking too much responsibility? What about when it is proven that the engine has failed as a result of incorrect assembly? Let's see, it dropped out. I have to put it back on again. For example, in the last race of the World Championship in leading boat, how do you approach this situation? So since only your guys are gonna wrench the motors, I guess it's like it's always been in racing. As long as the carton has been opened, the warranty has left the building. Or how do you approach this one? It's a legit question, actually.
Yeah, it's a very good question. There's all kind of scenarios, right? That would be a horrible one if something like that happened. But I think again the engine is got a robust manufacturing process. We feel very good about it. I think with a proper break-in, but the outboards as new are run across the dyno before they're sold. But if you get into a second generation long block that you would have to install, then we need to make sure that engine is run properly in the break-in period, right? And but that's the model we've signed up for. We feel like it's a low probability of that kind of problem. I'm not saying it can't happen, and if it does happen, that would be very negative to our reputation.
It's good to hear that he has actually no second thoughts about his product. It's definitely going to be good enough for racing competition, and he trusts it so much that he's partnering up with the NGK F1 Championship. We have had a lot of interesting guests in our common fields today. An old friend of mine, Leif Aalborg, who actually was the guy who created the Formula 4 series with your 60 horsepower Mercury. He is thanking us for a very good introduction of the new four-stroke race engines. He was the first man who had the Scandinavian Championship as a promoter. Later on, he developed the Formula 4 concept, and we all know where that has taken us.
Yes,
so thanks to Leif as well. A big shout out to Mr. Aalborg. Timmy, he knows him from way back, and it's good to see that people are following us still, Timmy.
Yeah. No, it's great. That's the thing about powerboat racing worldwide is as big as it is, it's also that small and personable where we all have contact with each other on some level. So it's great that you're following us, and we appreciate your participation.
A question from my editor here, Stuart. Chris Davies, the contributing editor of Powerboat Racing World. He is a big fan of the 24-hour race in Rouen, and he says, will we see this engine at the 24 hours in Rouen this year? You hope?
Working on it. I'm working on it. I've actually had a lot of trouble reaching. I don't speak French, and it seems like that's kind of a prerequisite for interacting with the FFM. So I need to contact our country manager at Mercury and have him help me contact the FFM to make sure that we can get those engines in there. Again, love to have some teams interested in it, but really have not had any recent discussion the engine's legal for Rouen, and just would really love. Ever since I've worked at Mercury, I've worked on the original Optimax engines that ran over in Rouen back in whatever that was, 97, 98. And I would love to finally get to that race, but there's nothing. Nobody's signed on the dotted line yet.
Chris and our late friend Rolf Magne, a friend of us from Norway, they won that race with the Optimax way back then. So I think I speak on behalf of Colin and myself, Stuart, when I say I got a DAC, we can run that race for you, no problem. Then we don't have to go across the pond. So if you're there with an engine, we can go there with a boat.
Yeah, well, that's I think the one thing I've been consistent on is we don't give away engines. So we want people to invest. They need to buy the engine, and we'll be there to support them. The other thing that's I'm surprised I didn't get a question on, and maybe what I found interesting about this whole journey of developing these APX series engines, the 200 APX and the 360 APX, was everyone kept saying you got to have them sound like a proper engine. And I think people were disappointed maybe with the way the first four-stroke sounded. They were pretty quiet, but I haven't heard anybody mention the exhaust note on these engines, which I think is fantastic. So maybe we cracked the nut, or not sure.
I can tell you the feedback I had, because I have been very interested in finding out this one, and our friend and maestro of boat building and racing, Guido Cappellini, that was his first comment when he replied to me on WhatsApp. I said, Guido, how was the test? He said, the sound is awesome. That was his comment. He called me up, he explained, he was like, he had goosebumps for the sound. So listening into the videos, that's definitely a place you scored. That's for sure.
Yeah, Guido's been a great partner too, to help us with the engine, and he invested in running the 360 in Pavia last year, and we appreciate him doing that and look forward to him running again this year with that engine.
Let's see, we got one more comment here. Leif is saying, interesting that my old Scandinavian ideas are very close to the American style, and that is a fact to me, because the way Leif was running his shows and the way I have now adopted and inherited Leif's style of racing in my race here in Tønsberg is very close to your format, and it's true, Leif. It's very, very, very similar. When it comes to Nelson, what is he saying? What is your opinion on short mid versus tall mid? Seems like with a heavier engine, you would want the center of gravity even lower with an even shorter midsection. Well,
I think it's a good question. It's a similar thing to if I go back to the offshore series that we just completed a test with Performance Boat Center running the 15-inch mids with 300 XSs versus our 300Rs with a 20-inch midsection, and really they have coming away from it. They said that the 20 inches actually perform better on corners. Now, there's a lot of things that go into cornering, right? It's not just the CG. I think from a theoretical standpoint, you want the CG as low as possible. I think you'll find the 200 APX is very competitive to the other engines, the 200 XS and the 2.5 carb motor. The 360 is a little more disadvantaged. If you look at what Mercury's done overall, not just talking Mercury Racing, but Mercury Marine, when we introduced the current four-stroke engines, I think you could see that the engines are as competitive as the clean two-strokes, the direct injected two-strokes. But if you remember when we initially went from carbo motors or EFI motors to the Optimax, there was a weight hit, right? And it's really difficult to make a four-stroke engine directly competitive to a vintage two-stroke, shall we call it? And I think that's the main issue with the 360 is the teams racing never went to the Optimax. and that's why there's that kind of disparity. I think you'll find that the engine still is competitive with those on lap times, and again, durability and cost of ownership is definitely a good thing. But we got to have somebody take that first step.
That's where you have to adjust the boat and, the rigging and the overall CG of the boat for the different engine packages. So that comes down to, developing around the engine, not just putting an engine on a current boat necessarily.
Yeah.
Like always, there is no substitute for seat time and testing, is there?
No.
Stuart?
No, I agree with you. That's that whole model. I've talked with other series, and the key thing is when you have an engine that you don't have to worry about failing during testing, you can just keep testing and testing, and that gives you the time to develop the overall package. And that's what I really feel confident in the business model we're going forward with, is that you just get this engine reliable, you give teams time to test and get the package dialed in, and you'll have great racing.
And what I've learned tonight, I will go home and argue the case with my girlfriend, because if I buy the 200 Apex, she will see more of me. As I will say, Stuart promised.
Yeah. Could you tell me her number? Let me have her phone number, and I need to have a conversation with her.
555. I've learned that from the American. Let's see. Guys, we have had a fantastic chat. Like Leif said, that I was the one introducing Optimax in Formula 2 as well. Long live the four-stroke. So he has definitely been around. Let's see. We was going to have this show to talk mainly about the NGK F1 series and the 200 Apex introduction over in America. There has been a lot of good questions also for the European market, which we are very happy with. I will then put up the last question here, which is also about Europe, Stuart, and Nikita, he would like to know what about the test in Europe this year. Have you made any progress on that one?
No, we have no plans right now. Happy to have discussions. Again, we need to find. I think timing has been extremely difficult these last 2 years. We've made so many attempts to try to get tests, and just were impacted by the world situation. That's why we've kind of been focusing on the U.S., but that allowed us to kind of work in our neighborhood a little bit more freely. But we would really like to take the engines to Europe and the rest of the world. We've got, I've had a lot of personal discussions with people in Europe and people in Australia. We see those areas as kind of the next steps for the engine. It just seemed like, with just the situation as it was best to focus on the U.S.
Colin would like to understand if there is stocks of engines, and you told me that there were 2 engines in Europe. I saw a picture of one in Nico van Eikelen's shop today, because one of my mates was there picking up his old vintage Optimax motor, but there was obviously one motor there. You said you had 2, and you had more engines in production. Isn't that correct, Stuart?
Yes, yeah, we've got 15 more engines in production right now. It's kind of a balance of how much inventory do we want to carry versus the demand of the engine. So basically relying on a little bit of faith right here that people will reach out for the engine.
Here we are. Timmy, I think that this has been a fantastic session. Is there any more points we should address now before we log off and call it a night?
Well, I just want to thank you for having us on. I think it's a great platform for us to use to get the word out, not only for our series, but also for powerboat racing and what we're doing. And I want to thank everybody that listened in and sent comments in and questions, because this really, a platform like this really allows us to get information out there quickly to answer the questions, so that way we don't have people guessing at what the correct answer is. So thank you again, and I look forward to seeing everybody at the races this year.
Thank you for those kind words, Timmy. I gotta say that today I was more nervous than last time I raced in the Formula 2 World Championship with all the technical difficulties we had in the start and so on. I was throwing you off the platform and you was relogging back on and so on. But Stuart, I think we managed to get a good show out of it.
Yeah, I want to thank you, Frode, for inviting myself, and definitely with Tim. It's been an interesting journey getting this far, but there's nothing better than trying to work a solution with a bunch of racers. They're a very crafty bunch and very innovative in their solutions. So I like the thought process. I like the characters we get to meet in this industry, and look forward to, again, growing the sport larger and larger.
And with those words, I would like to say thank you to Tim Seebold and Stuart Halley from Mercury Racing. We will be back with more different live streams on this channel. We are going to have a number of different topics. I'm going to frequently come on here with my editor, Chris Davis. So if you like the show, please feel free to share it, give a thumbs up, and help us to spread the word, because together with Tim Seebold and Stuart, we are definitely going to be at your service and to promote the races. And with that said, I'm going to finish off the evening with the favorite film from Mercury Racing, at least Stuart's favorite film. It's from the Lake X factory. So if you give me a second, I would just say so long and see you later. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Mm-hmm.